right. Oh, are we good? Okay, it looks like we're good. Let me just make sure. Let's see here. Where is it? Is it this? There we go. Okay, now I can see everything. Okay, well, let me turn this light off here so we don't have so much glare. Kind of put everything together in very quickly at the last possible second. I don't really like how the YouTube streaming options only lets you set your scheduling every half hour, because I could have used a few extra minutes to get everything set up, but they're like, no, you need to be on the half hour every half hour in order to set everything up. So that's why I was a little delayed, but I think I got everything set up nicely here, so I think we're good. Hey, Man Cave, you are just the man I was hoping to be in the stream today. I am working on your card today, and I'm very excited about it. I was a little nervous because it's my very first live streaming commission, but I'm really excited. Like, the more I was setting up the primer paint and everything on it, the more excited I got about it. So I am so excited to get working on this. And I even have, you can't see it here, I'll show it right now. I actually have my sketch up in front of my face so that I can know what I'm trying to do. There it is in all of its glory. It's going to be my reference point. Hey Rebecca, good to see you. I'm working on Man Cave's commission piece, and basically it's going to be a extended art of the main art that's already here, and it's just going to extend out across the entire card. But then I'm going to also add some stuff. So I'm going to add our little imp friend right here. And I've also taken, across the last few days, I was doing all sorts of planning for this commission. So I have a couple of like personal notes off to the side here of things I might want to try and do with the piece. So I feel like I'm pretty ready for this, and like I said, I have the sketch over here on the side so I can reference it when I need to. And hey, Mr. Shed, alright, I got the whole family in here, awesome! I'm so glad you guys were able to come in here and make it. So yeah, we're gonna jump right into this, and I'm very excited to get working on it. So this is gonna be so cool. I'm very happy to be working on my first ever commission piece on my live stream. So this is going to be just a whole bunch of fun. So I haven't set up any of my colors yet, so we're probably going to do that first. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my favorite color and also what looks like it's going to be the main color in this piece. I'm probably going to get started with the yellow color. So we're going to be mixing a little bit of yellow first to start with. So yeah, I'll just bring my palette over here and we'll get working on it. And I'm also hoping that my plan is to have this started today, and then I'm kind of hoping that I can do another stream tomorrow unless something weird pops up that prevents me from being able to stream. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to continue the piece tomorrow as well. Like, I'll do a portion of it today, a portion of it tomorrow, and it's possible I might not be able to finish it in 2 streams. I might have to do a 3rd stream, and that might mean I might have to wait a week until I can finish it. But we'll see how much progress we can make. So, hey Bo, good to see you. Glad you're in here. We are working on a Sulfur Spring. This is the, hold on a second, there we go. This is the commission piece that I promised I was going to do for Man Cave. And there it is. Oh, focus. Focus. There we go. That looks good. Well, it'll be in better focus once I actually put it down and get the camera a little bit closer. So that's what we're working on today, and I'm super excited about it. So let's go ahead and get this yellow going. Alright. Well, whew. I've been looking forward to doing this all day today. I had a bunch of things I had to do before I could get this actually going. I totally forgot I'm almost out of yellow. I have another tube of yellow over here, so Yeah, the Ice Age version. It was, yeah, it was Man Cave. He wanted the Ice Age version. And I don't blame him because it's got the really awesome Phil Foglio art. It's like, you can't beat that Phil Foglio art. It's the best. So he definitely has really good taste in art for picking this particular piece. So, like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited to work on it. So I think the first thing I should probably do is, it looks like I'm going to have to make the yellow a lighter color. So we're going to get this yellow to be just brighter. I'll probably just add some white to it, just to get that started and going. Okay. I was hearing some weird noises in the background, but then I just realized it's the music that's playing. I was like, what is that? What is that weird clicking sound? I have some music playing in the background, but I don't think you guys can hear it all that well, which is fine. Um, I want to, I don't want to depend on having music in the background all the time, because obviously if I get monetized, like, that's going to be an issue. But I kind of like having it in the background because it kind of puts me in the zone for painting and things like that. Even if I can only just barely hear it, like, it's kind of nice. So I do have some music playing in the background, just a little bit. But it's not too loud. I don't know if you guys can actually hear it or not, but I think I was watching one of my past streams and I could only just barely hear it. Like, you could just barely hear it. So that's probably for the best. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this. I'm just so excited to do this piece. So how have you guys all been? Oh, kind of surprised we're 5 minutes in and I haven't heard Foglio yet. Yeah, well, I mean, we're working on his piece, and I'm just excited to do it because he's such a good artist. I'll have to show you guys like eventually my copy of Trade Caravan, which is, I think, probably one of my favorite Phil Foglio pieces, because it's so exciting and fun, and there's so much happening in it. I do love his art a lot. I always wanted to get my hands on a copy of Humility. Because I love the Phil Foglio artwork for that piece as well. I don't think I would ever use the card because I don't know. I don't think it would ever really fit in my cube. I don't think it would be a very good choice to put in the cube because it's so I don't know. I mean, I guess I can't say that it wouldn't fit in the cube because I have other like in other words, like, it's too powerful because I have other really powerful, like, BS cards in the cube. So I don't know. Maybe if I did get my hands on a copy of Humility with the awesome Phil Foglio art, I don't think there's any other version of it, but I might put it in the cube, but I'm not totally sure about that because I don't know. I don't know how it would interact with all the other cards because um, like, I mean, I have, like, cards that make me think of Humility are cards like the Abyss and what's the other one? The Nether Void. And I do have cards like that in the cube. So, I mean, it's possible that Humility would fit alongside of those cards because those cards can be worked around. So, like, it's not like they're totally oppressive. I've had games where my best friend, like, I would play. It's really funny because my best friend doesn't like playing the Void or I mean the Nether Void or the Abyss, and he always tells me, he's like, yeah, but, like, I don't really like the card because I can never, like, imagine, like, playing with it and it working out for me, but, like, every time I get it in my draft picks, I always have it in the deck, and I'll play it, and he'll be like, oh god, it's so strong, and you're playing around it so well, maybe I should start playing with it too, and I'm like, well, maybe. But yeah, I think Humility would probably be on par with, like, the Abyss and Nether Void, so it might work. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see if I can get my hands on a cheap copy of it. Doing well. How is the new work schedule working out? Well, I have not started my new job yet. It's actually a good point that you brought that up because I will be finishing off my current job. This last week was the last full work week I have, and then after starting on, so then I have to work Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then I'm done with that job, and I'm not going back. So, um, what am I listening to? It's called Vulnerability by Midas. It's EDM. I have a soft spot. I do like EDM, so I do like it. I listen to like Midas is playing right now, and this is actually on my Midas channel. Midas is Mitis. It's kind of like an interesting mixture. It's like EDM, but it's more rhythmic and more like some of it is really relaxing. Like a lot of the Midas music can be really rhythmic, and there is some stuff that's really high upbeat, but then there's some stuff that's kind of like relaxing and smooth and kind of nice to listen to. Like for example, another band that plays on the on my Midas channel that I really like is Seven Lions, which is another band that is very rhythmic EDM that is very similar to Midas, and I like them a lot as well. So yeah, that's what's playing, and I like it. It kind of gets me like one of the reasons I love listening to like rhythmic EDM and stuff like that, like Midas, is because a lot of it makes me think of fantasy. Like I imagine a lot of it is like almost cinematic fantasy music, you know? And so like what I really like about it is when I'm working on painting magic cards, it kind of like when I'm listening to like that kind of rhythmic EDM sounding music that's kind of that, fantastic, almost cinematic sounding music, it makes me feel like I'm in like a fantasy world and stuff like that. So that's why I really like it. Just gets me in that mood, that fantasy mood. So we're starting out with this yellow, and it's not exactly quite right, but I feel like what I could do is just kind of lay down this yellow a little bit, and then kind of improve the colors as we go along. And I'm already noticing that it's actually looking pretty good against the darker shades of yellow in the background. So like there's like let me bring the camera a little closer so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let's see, there we go. Let me see if I can kind of get it to focus. That usually helps. There, oh, almost, not quite. So they're just like some, let me get this lamp out of the way. There. Is it gonna work? I'm starting to get worried that, oh, I'm sorry, Man Cave. Just keep, maybe try refreshing it, and, oh, well, if your connection is actually bad, there's nothing I can do about that, but, classically have my coffee here, wherever I need it. Oh, I didn't notice Bo left. Okay, well, I don't think he's here anymore, but thanks for dropping in if you do hear me, and I hope you come back pretty soon. So I'm noticing that this yellow is kind of matching some of the darker areas, which is really good. Oh, there's a hair on that. There we go. Let's get that hair off. There we go. So that's probably a good thing. So I'm going to kind of just add this yellow all over the place. Like, really fill it out with the yellow color. And then I'll kind of shade it as we go along. Banshee by Dance with the Dead. I really like that one. Okay, well, I'll look into it, Mr. Shed. I'll definitely check it out. Yeah, if you're into that kind of stuff, Mr. Shed, definitely look up Midas if you've never listened to him before. It's very nice. It's, like I said, like, I always like to think of it like it's like listening to, like, fantasy music, like fantasy cinematic music, which is really nice. And a lot of it is, like, really action-oriented. For example, the song that made me fall in love with Midas, like, it was, like, I used to have a channel for, oh, God, it was for, like, something completely different. And I can't think of what it is right now, but I pretty much never listen to the channel anymore because I wasn't the biggest... No, it's Midas with an I, so Mitis. Um, but anyways, yeah, there's this song by Midas called "Life," just simple "Life," like Life, and it's so good. It's the song that made me like Midas in the first place. Like it was like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my god, like I have to look up this band. Um, but yeah, it's really good. And like one of the things I loved about it was like so sometimes when I'm like I actually design like for fun magic cards on a program called Magic Set Editor. And I'll play like like this kind of music in the background while I'm working on that as well. So basically, like any kind of if I'm working on like story writing for fantasy, because I also used to write short stories, and or if I'm working on artwork, or if I'm working on like the Magic Set Editor, I'll play like EDM and stuff like that. And the first time I ever heard the song "Life" by Midas, it like totally took me to this place in my mind, like because I'm a very imagination oriented person. It took me to this place where I imagined a bunch of characters in a story I was writing at the time that were traveling through a ancient underground ruins that was like all this, mind you, was in like an actual story I was working on. It was when I was doing I actually I could show you guys that stuff too. I have a notebook filled with like if you guys have been like you guys have seen the cards that I posted in my Discord channel. Like I showed you guys, like I had the Sky Striker Rock and like a couple of the like I had the God Legend or whatever, and I posted all that stuff. So I've been actually working on those cards for years, and like that set has been built up across many years. And it also has like this whole deep lore to it. I have like a small notebook, well, not a small notebook, it's a pretty big notebook actually, full of like history of like the storyline happening in that magic set. And I even have like a whole world map and just like all sorts of stuff. Like it's something I've been working on for probably, I want to say more than 10 years. I've probably been working on it. And there's this one particular set of characters that are like exploring this ancient ruin on a land that like disappeared a long time ago, and it only just recently reappeared, and so they're all going out to like explore it. And the song "Life" was like a perfect musical representation of those characters exploring that ruin and like seeing all of the amazing mystical things that they saw in that ruin was like really beautifully represented in a musical fashion by that song in particular. And I don't know why it just kind of played out in my mind really well in that way, and that's why I really adore that song. And like I said, like that song by Midas is what made me love the band. So I started looking up their music and listening to all sorts of their stuff. And I mean, some of their other songs have really impacted me pretty hard, but not as much as that one particular song by them. That one in particular was very impacting on my imagination and my story writing at that time. So I'll have to actually show some of that stuff to you guys just for fun. Because I have like it's like right over here off to the side. If I brought it up, I'll paint this a little. Uh-oh, am I scratching that off? I hope not. Yeah, I'm kind of scratching that off by accident. I got to be really careful. Some of the paint, the gray paint, was giving me a bad time when I was actually. You can kind of see it right there. You see that little brown mark right there? That's where I accidentally scratched the card just now. And I mean, it's not like damaging the actual physical card, it's just damaging the paint, which I can just reapply. So that's not a big deal. It's just I have to wait for it to dry before I can reapply it again. But yeah, I'll take some time in a little bit to kind of show you guys the notebook that has all of the fantasy history of that set and world that I've been working on for a really long time. And I also have like a world map like just right over off to the side. And at one point I was trying to turn it into a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but it didn't really work out. It was a combination of things. It was a combination of realizing that I wasn't really good at being a dungeon master. That was really hard for me to do, and I wasn't really used to it. And also the group of people that I was trying to like do that with. Two of them were really like I had three people playing with me for that Dungeons and Dragons campaign where I was trying to build my world and my fantasy world for them. And two of them were really, really good at it. Like, in other words, like, they were team players, and they really wanted to have a good time, and they really wanted to explore the world I was building for them. But I had this other guy who, was really a big jerk. Like, he was just a big jerk. And, he didn't ever want to play, like, he didn't ever want to cooperate with the other players or me. He just always wanted to do his own thing. And, he was very obnoxious. And, excuse me a minute, my nose is a little runny. He was just very obnoxious, and one of the big problems we had was, so like we used to, when we would get together, we would drink and smoke and have a good time. But like, you know, we would just kind of smoke a little bit and start playing, and we would all have beers, and we would be drinking while we're playing, and it would be a lot of fun. But this guy who was a major jerk in our campaign, he used to get wasted. Absolutely wasted. And it was just a major pain in the ass trying to get him to, like, you know, play. Like, he was already a really obnoxious personality in our campaign. And then on top of that, he would just get absolutely drunk. And it was just not fun to play with him at all. And I eventually had to, like, kick him out of the campaign, which was really annoying because I also worked with the guy at that time, and after I kicked him out of our campaign, he told everybody at my workplace that I was like being really mean and kicked him out of the game and stuff like that, and everybody was like, hey, like that's not really nice to do and blah blah blah. And I was like, you know what, you don't even know what's going on, so go away. We have to get back to work here in a minute. I have to run this soon into the stream. Have a good time, Habs. Okay, Mr. Shed, thank you for stopping by. It's no worries, I understand. If you guys come back, then awesome, and we'll hang out longer. But if not, no worries. I will see you in the future. You take it easy, man. But yeah, like I said, ever since I had that situation with that guy, I basically haven't really tried to start that campaign again or really continue it. And I was kind of hoping that maybe someday I would just what's the word? Maybe someday I would actually write a book, like an actual fantasy novel, and kind of like base it all around that storyline that I was doing. So, and I really want to do it because I've been working on it for so long, and I really adore it. Like, I have all these storylines, and the problem is, though, is that the story is built around the Magic the Gathering multiverse. And that's really hard because, like, I don't have the ability or the rights to actually write for Wizards of the Coast, obviously. So, I mean, it's really hard when you build, like, this large, intricate world with all these characters and all this magic and all this stuff, but there are all these factors that depend on things that are very specific to Magic the Gathering. Like, for example, the major one is Planeswalkers. Like, Planeswalkers are actually important to the storyline, and it's really hard to try and, like, explain that in a way that is not Planeswalkers. Because, like, I thought about the idea of, like, going the route of, like, well, they're technically, like, Planeswalkers are technically gods. But then again, like, the concept behind planeswalkers versus gods is that gods are tied to like one specific universe. Planeswalkers are like gods that are beyond gods. Like they're literally multi-dimensional beings that can travel across multiple different universes that are not tied to any one specific universe. Whereas like gods are like only prevalent in one universe. So like it's kind of like what they did in Theros, you know? Like in Theros, like there are gods, but they're only tied to the plane that they reside in. So they're only worshipped and only have the godlike powers that they have within the specific universe that they are tied to being within. So like planeswalkers are like more powerful than gods. And it's like, well, how do you, outside of how Magic the Gathering did it, of explaining what a planeswalker is, how would you explain a being that is more powerful than a god, that is not a planeswalker, but is still this multi-dimensional being? You know what I mean? It's so like there were all sorts of weird little things and I actually, like I said, um I did try to like go the route of trying to explain the concept of planeswalkers without using the term planeswalkers, and like kind of trying to explain like what they were supposed to be. And I just kept running into all sorts of problems with trying to do that. So, but I still like, you know, I still really do want to kind of try and solve that and like write my own story about that and things like that. I just don't know how I would go about it. That's the main issue. Um, and the other thing too is just simply, sorry guys. um, the other issue too is just simply writing it, because like I'm really good at writing um, informational material. So like I can write what's it called? Like one of the things that I was doing a lot was I was writing like the history of what happened in the history of the dimension that my story takes place in. So like I was really good at writing out all these historical events and all of these, you know, things that had occurred across the plane throughout time. But I wasn't very good at telling a specific story. And that's always kind of been my issue with trying to, you know, write and do things like that. And I really, like I said, like I really want to like do it, but I'm just not sure how to go about it. And one of my things too to try and deal with that is reading more, just simply reading more. And I've been trying to read like that was one of the main reasons why I started reading a lot of the older Magic the Gathering novels, is because I wanted to get a better sense of like the techniques of you know, Magic the Gathering fantasy writers. And I had a great chance with that when I, like, for example, when I read the three books, Johann, Jedit, and Hazazon, which are the three books of the first Legend cycle. Those books are spectacular. Like, I talk about them all the time because they are genuinely, like, 5-star quality fantasy writing. Like, not even joking. Like, I'm not exaggerating or anything, because, like, I was wondering at one point, like, after I finished reading those three books, I was actually wondering to myself if I was giving those books too much credit. Because, you know, I have only read a few other Magic books outside of that. Like, for example, I read the Alara novel, which is only by itself. And the thing is that the Alara novel, although very interesting, it's actually got a lot of plot holes in it. There's a lot of really important details that are in the cards that are not explained in the Alara book at all. That seem very important. And also, when you're actually reading the Alara book as well, they have these various different catastrophic events that occur that are never really, like, they kind of just barely tell you about them, like they're like a live event that occurs, and it's obvious that there needs to be like a resolution to them, but they never resolve them. There's a few major things that occur with that in the Alara book. And like I said, like, the Alara book is interesting. It's pretty good. It's just that it's, like I said, it's got all these plot holes in it. And I mean, I kind of accepted that for what it was. Um, and then I've also read I think it was like the Scourge novel, and I didn't read the first two books that were the predecessors of Scourge. But I did read the Scourge novel, which was absolutely, like, it wasn't like the best piece of writing, but it was very fascinating. It had like one of the things that was really interesting about the Scourge novel was that, so for anybody who knows about Scourge, the primary focus of what is happening in the, I think it's like, I can't remember, it's like Legions, Scourge, and something else. I can't remember what the other one is. But the primary conflict happening in those three books is a story about it's a story about these two not even, they're like not necessarily avatars. They're like it's hard to explain. They're like I mean, I guess they are technically avatars, but they're like avatars of like purity. So like it's hard to explain it. It's like the idea of like the pure essence of something. So like the two like avatars were the pure essence of like justice and like good versus like the pure essence of like evil and bad. And and the idea was that they weren't actually like physical concepts. They were like actual, like they were basically like pure concentrated sources of like magical energy that happened to be sentient. So like, and the whole concept behind it was that they were these sentient like forces. They're forces of nature. That's the word I'm trying to imagine. They're literally um for like pure forces of nature, one being good, like good and justice, and the other one being bad and evil. And the idea is that they had channeled themselves into physical forms, and the two physical forms were Achroma, Angel of Wrath, and the other one was Phage the Untouchable. So like the idea was that like their purity, like the idea was that they were pure energy, but they manifested into physical forms, and their physical forms became Achroma, the Angel of Wrath, and Phage the Untouchable. And the idea was that they were basically like, and the thing about Achroma, the Angel of Wrath, is that she wasn't just simply like an angel. Like, she was literally viewed as like a god. Like, they were both literally forces of nature, and they were worshipped like gods. Like both Phage the Untouchable and Achroma, the Angel of Wrath, were like viewed as basically godlike beings, and they were worshipped like that. And they basically were like, the whole story behind it was that even though like, what was really interesting was that they had like the concept that like, even though they were the purest form of what they were still ultimately self-destructive and selfish, and like in their like, even like for example, Achroma, Angel of Wrath, was like almost like Urza in a way, in the sense that like like Akroma, Angel of Wrath, had her own way of being and own way of doing things, and that was not necessarily a good thing. That was there were times where she Akroma, the Angel of Wrath, would do things for the sake of good and justice, but the cost of what she would do would be really steep and malevolent, very very dangerous and kind of selfish at times. And it was really interesting because it was like I said, it was kind of like what they did with Urza in a way, because it was the idea of Urza had this sense of everything I do is going to be good for everybody because it's going to be good for me, and if I do what's good for me, it's going to naturally benefit everybody else. So that was kind of like how Akroma, Angel of Wrath was. And the thing is, though, is that Phage the Untouchable was a lot more in your face about it, because obviously she was supposed to be the pure essence of you know dark energy and evil and death and things like that. So she was a lot more in your face evil. Um, but Akroma was a lot more interesting because she was this character who did things for the purpose of this is the way it should be handled. What I say is just, and you should just deal with it. And if you're not for me, then you're against me, and I will kill you. That's kind of how she was. Um, and it was really interesting. And the reason why I'm going into so much depth about that is to explain the book that I read. Mind you, I haven't read the other two books, which is primarily what the whole thing about Akroma, the Angel of Wrath, and Phage the Untouchable was all about. The only reason why I know what I know about those characters is because the book that I did own talked about it a lot, because it was a big deal. Um, and Onslaught, Legions, and Scourge. Yeah, that was it. Thank you, Man Cave. I just couldn't remember the first one. I remembered Legions and Scourge, but I didn't remember Onslaught. Um, but what happened in the third book, which was Scourge, which was the only one I owned, and I also had to go and look up information about Onslaught and Legion so that I could fill in some of the holes of the Scourge book to make it make more sense. Um, so the Scourge book, what's interesting is, so in Onslaught is the story of the how Akroma, Angel of Wrath, and Phage the Untouchable come into existence, and how they manifest and do their thing. Um, and Legions was basically the war between the two of them, and also their death. So Akroma, Angel of Wrath, and uh, Phage the Untouchable, they both die in the second book. They both die in Legions. And it's really interesting because what literally happens is, the story goes is that they have their epic war and the two sides clash. And what happens is Phage the Untouchable and Akroma, Angel of Wrath, strike each other simultaneously. And when they strike each other simultaneously, they basically murder each other at the same time, and their energies coalesce together. So they both basically simultaneously die and then merge. And that's literally when that happens, that literally is the ending of the Book of Legions, is them then killing each other and merging. And then the opening for Scourge is the story about Corona, the false god, which is the product of the two of them merging and becoming one sentient being. And what's really interesting is that the idea is that they're literally when the two avatars merge together and are reborn as Corona, the false god, they are literally reborn. Like not just like literally, like in other words, like they start a new, like they not only just come back as another being, they are literally like birthed in the sense that like the Corona the false god has the God, this gray paint is so sensitive. I have to be so careful with it. I just chipped off more of it. I just gotta let it dry and I'll be able to go over it again. Um, Corona the false god is literally like a baby. Like like the brain of a baby, the understanding of like a small, like, 2-year-old or 3-year-old child with like the powers of a god, basically. And so the whole book revolves around Corona the false god learning her place in life as this godlike being and trying to learn and understand what the multiverse and the world around her means. And it's really deep. Like weirdly, it's a really weirdly deep story. Um, because it has like all these really deep philosophies in it, and like literally like it's, yeah, I'm gonna have to wait a bit longer for that to. The problem is the gray paint I put on this as my my what's it called, my primer. I mixed too much water in with it, and I was noticing this before I started the stream. I mixed too much water into it because I was trying to like really thin it down, so that I could get a nice smooth coat all over the card on it. And but I think I made it too thin, which is making it chip off if I'm not careful. So I'm trying to be as careful as I possibly can, but I still sometimes accidentally rub some of it off. So I'm just going to have to kind of fix that. All right, well, I'll come back to that spot a little bit later. But yeah, so it was just really interesting because it was this book that was just very weirdly deep and was trying to like teach you all these like concepts about like for example, the major one that they were trying to teach was the concept of like life and death and why that is important to the world that they're in. And it's really funny because Corona doesn't care about life and death. And that's actually a major plot point to the story, because there are characters and things that die while she exists, and not being able to understand like the importance of life and death basically makes her reanimate things without discretion. So like, and they kind of like go into the like, and there's all these consequences with the things that she does. Like when she reanimates things, like she has to learn the difference between reanimating a corpse and reanimating a sentient being, which is like a big deal in the story because she does that. Like there are these two characters that apparently were in all three of the books, and they're basically like these weird puckish rogue characters that are kind of like I would describe them as like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. You know, they're kind of like these weird, almost comedic characters that are very shifty. They're very roguelike, and they kind of like are very selfish characters. And what happens is that when Corona the false god first comes into existence, these two puckish rogue characters are the first people that she ever meets. And so she basically depends on them throughout a large portion of the book to teach her how to do things and how to live life. But the thing is that these characters are very shifty, and they're kind of like they're not bad guys, but they're like your common everyday scoundrel, you know, like they're shifty. And so like she's kind of like a baby trying to learn like the ins and outs of like life and all this stuff. and she's being taught this information by these shifty scoundrel characters. And there's a point in time where there's one point where um, she's like interested in animals or whatever, and she sees an animal die, and then she reanimates it, but it's like now a zombie, and it's like this disgusting, gross, nasty zombie, and it's like dangerous and all this stuff, and it actually attacks one of the rogue characters, and they basically like teach her that there's like a difference between, reanimating a corpse and reanimating a sentient creature. um and then it eventually gets to a point of where like one of the two rogue characters actually dies, and she makes the decision to like reanimate him properly as like a sentient creature, and it has like all these really interesting consequences to it, and it's really good. Like it was very interesting and intriguing. I don't know if I still have that book anymore, but it was really good. um, but I also remember that it was boring at points, and one of the things too is that it was all about is that I just realized that there's another portion of this card that I accidentally chipped off. It's so sensitive. It blows my mind. Um, and the thing is too is that like there's all this stuff where um, she basically is trying to um, retake her place as she was as Acroma and Phage. And Acroma and Phage had their own levels and sense of justice in their own way. Like, I mean, obviously Phage had like a darker, nastier sense of justice, and Acroma had more of a wrathful, um, you know, sense of justice where it was like very, like, I don't know, archaic, or not archaic, draconic. I think draconic is the right word for that. So like Corona starts going around and like putting in all these, doing all these, making all these choices of like enforcing powerful magic to discipline the world around her, and it eventually gets to a point of where it's out of control, which is where Kamal steps in, and Kamal comes in and basically saves the world. As for anybody who's knows anything about that storyline, and Kamal is what's really interesting is that Kamal's standpoint is the natural order of the dimension. So like he is the envoy of Gaia. Like he is basically the natural order on the dimension. And, or I should say not the natural order, but he is an envoy. Yeah, he's an envoy for what should be just based on the natural order of Dominaria, of the world. Um, and so Corona's basically, I mean, not Corona, yeah, Corona is basically doing all of these crazy, powerful, magical things that are basically against the natural order of the dimension and causing all these problems. For example, like they're all, a lot of the stuff that she does causes like rifts in the dimension because it's not natural to the dimension to have the magic that she is using and things like that. So it just starts creating rifts and all these problems, and it was Kamal's job to come in and basically stop it from occurring, and he ends up slaying Corona, like he does, and that's kind of how that goes. But it's got a very, like I said, like there's more to it than that. Like I'm kind of just jumping the gun when saying that, but it's just very interesting stuff. And I mean, I was talking about these three books, because I was talking about the intrigue of the the Magic the Gathering books, and what place they have in writing. And the thing is that a lot of them are very hit and miss. They're like for example, one of the major things that was occurring when I was reading the books recently is because I was originally starting this out by talking about um, I was reading um, Johann Jedit and Hazazon, and which are spectacular books. I know I said that already, but they are. They're spectacular. Like I would. I don't know if it's like I don't know if I can if it's okay for me to say that they're as good as the Lord of the Rings books, but they're up there, man. Like they're good. Like it's a very the books are very good. They're very well paced. The characters are fascinating. They're very human like. You can very much relate to them. Their struggles feel very real. The books have high stakes. People die in the books. Like important characters die, and like it's just they're just very well written books. Um, but I also like with finishing those. And by the way, they had a spectacular ending too. Like everything was, and that's another thing too about those books is that by the end of the first Legend cycle, Johann, Jedit, and Hazazon, by the end of the third book, everything is wrapped up. There are no loose ends whatsoever. Everything is completely, totally wrapped up perfectly, like in a nice, neat little bow. It's fantastic. It has great closure. Um, the ending of the third book, like I'm gonna, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody. The ending of the third book practically had me in tears. It was so good. It was very. The ending of the third book was very emotional, and it was very well done, and it pretty much had me in tears. Like it was very good. Um, but I started reading the first book of the second Legend cycle, which is called The Assassin's Blade. Um, and the beginning of it seemed interesting. Like it was to give you guys an example of the very beginning um, the very first book for the second cycle of Legends, which is called Assassin's Blade. They basically set it up so that the area where everything starts in is basically ruled by an evil empire. Like um, the idea is that there is this ultra powerful emperor who is basically taken over an entire continent, and the entire continent is ruled under his thumb. And they've explained that this emperor is essentially immortal. To what degree you're not really sure. I mean, there are some things that I figured out on my own. Um, about like for example, there was something that they did that unintentionally. I don't think it was intentional when they wrote the book, but because of the knowledge that I have now based on other things I've read in magic lore and history, it kind of like that knowledge spoiled what seems like a major plot point in these novels that I'm working on right now. So basically, like the idea, and it's mostly about the Emperor. Um, I mean, I've talked about it before, but basically, like, I mean, I don't know if you guys are ever going to actually go and read the book, so I feel like I can go ahead and say it. But basically, the spoiler that I figured out on my own, based on knowledge that the books were giving, and based on knowledge of stuff I know now about like current magic history, is that the Emperor, the immortal Emperor in these three books, is Nicol Bolas. He is the immortal Emperor of this empire, and which is really cool. Like one of the things that they did in the book that really tipped me off, like it basically helped me figure out that Nicol Bolas was the emperor of this land, is they referred to the emperor they refer to him as the immortal god king in multiple at pieces, like portions of the book. And I was like, you're calling him the god, like the immortal God King. Like, there's only one creature in all of Magic the Gathering that is referred to as the immortal God King. It's Nicol Bolas. Like, you know? So, and I actually thought that was really interesting because that means, because mind you, um, these books were written quite some time ago. I think that the book that I'm reading right now was written either in 2003 or 2005. And so that means that the reference of calling Nicol Bolas the Immortal God King predates them referring to him as that in sets like Amonkhet and things like that. Which is really interesting. It means that they actually did their homework and their history and went back and set up the Amonkhet lore to properly follow alongside how they established Nicol Bolas in past lore, which is really nice. It implies, you know, a sense of overall consistency with what they're trying to do, which is nice. But I liked what they were doing. Like, they have it. Like, my point is that they have this story built on the idea of, like, the whole setting is that it's this evil empire, and it's all about these various rulers. Like, they have, like, the two main characters are Tetsuo Umezawa, who is notoriously famous for fighting Nicol Bolas and winning. And the other major character in the book is a character, you guys might not know this one, but his name is Ramses Overdark. And Ramses Overdark is basically the head assassin for the Emperor. So, like, and the thing is that they actually explained that assassins in this empire have this really important purpose in the empire. They're not just simply murderers. Like, they're not people. Like, I mean, they do have a job of going out and slaying the enemies of the empire, but they actually have all of these important roles. Like, for example, the the assassins of the emperor are basically political leaders. They're like what's the word? Oh god, I can't think of it. They basically, like, go out and, like, meet with other kings and other, like, kings and other political leaders, and they basically have the purpose of you know, negotiating and things like that. Like, they actually have, like, a political purpose and existence in the empire, other than just simply murdering people. So it was, you know, like, and the whole thing too was that so Ramses Overdark is this, like, political assassin, and Tetsuo Umezawa is the champion of the emperor. So he has the job of controlling like the, like, justice system and, like, the like some of the militarization of the empire. So, like, it's really interesting because they basically created this whole I'm trying to think of all the proper words that I need to use to explain this. They basically built this whole entire setting where it's this evil empire ruled by a very powerful, immortal, evil emperor, who we know is Nicol Bolas, and but they still have, like a political system. They have, like, different kingdoms. They have, like, you know, different leaders for different purposes, all serving under the emperor. And it was really interesting because they also have this whole uh, thing that they were doing where they basically make you feel sympathetic for portions of the empire. Like they make you feel sympathetic for the townships and the kingdoms that serve under the empire. So like even though it's ruled, like this entire empire is ruled by an iron fist, with an evil emperor at its helm, you still see all these kingdoms and villages that are just trying to live their lives and do what's right for the empire while surviving. And it's just really interesting because then you have characters like Ramses Overdark, who is this political assassin, and he wants to control the things that he wants to control in the way that he wants to control them, by enforcing his own rules and schemes under the name of the empire. So it's like it's almost like one of the ways that I was trying to explain it to somebody who was curious about it when I was telling them about it. It's like imagine watching the movie Star Wars, but imagine watching the movie Star Wars where imagine watching the movie Star Wars where the entire perspective was from the view of the Empire. So like, because you know how like when you're watching the Star Wars movies, you see all of like the rebellion and like the rebels coming in and they're like, we're gonna blow up the Death Star, and then they go in and they shoot the Death Star and it explodes, right? And like it's like, yay, victory, right? So like, but did you ever think about like how many families were on the Death Star? How many innocent people on the Death Star died? Like, how many people on the Death Star were just there doing their job, working their 9 to 5, and then suddenly the whole spaceship blows up and they're all dead, right? So, like, that's kind of like what this book is trying to do. It's like giving you like all this stuff with this evil empire, but they do a lot of it from the perspectives of like the people that are just living their lives in the empire and like just doing what they're told. And like for example, the beginning of the book talks about the very beginning of the book is very focused around a small seafaring village that is having a domestic problem with a dragon that is attacking the village all the time. And so they basically have to go to the Empire to request help in stopping this dragon from attacking their seafaring village. And it's literally just, a lot of it is just simply like, it's the majority of that story, like of that part of the book, is just talking about these normal, everyday, average people who just are living their lives, and they're just trying to, get help from the Empire, who is, the Empire owns the continent, so they have to work with them. So they have to go through all of the politics and of requesting the help of the Empire. And basically what happens is Umezawa, who is the champion, has to step in and enforce military justice on this dragon that is attacking the village. So like I said, it's and like, but meanwhile the whole time, like all these other things with like the evil empire are occurring. Like I said, like they go to Tetsuo Umezawa, who is trying to enforce military justice for the average denizens of the continent. But then you go back to Ramses Overdark, who is trying to put this like evil stranglehold, political stranglehold on the entire like empire, so that he can act his own evil plot. You know what I mean? So it's like it goes back and forth between here's where the evil empire is just being their normal, you know, average citizen lifestyle. And then it switches gears and goes back over here's where the empire is enforcing its evil rule on the rest of the world. And it kind of goes back and forth between that. And like one of the things that was really interesting too was they have this other continent that is like across the sea from the empire. And I'm going to change up some colors here. I feel like I've done enough yellow. I did a lot of yellow. Obviously, you guys can see I did a lot of yellow. And that's going to be, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this. The base coating of my yellow is for all of this stuff. And I will change some of the shadings, but I feel like a lot of the colors are matching very nicely. So we'll go over it again a little bit later. But I kind of want to get some of these darker bluish colors going. I'm going to put them in a few different areas. I'm probably going to put them up towards the top here. Maybe in a few spaces down here as well. Maybe some stuff down here at the bottom as well. So I'm just going to start working on that for a little bit. So I'm going to take the card out of the way and I'm going to start mixing some paint. So yeah, like, I totally lost track of what I was saying. Story of my life. It was, like, the thing is that, it's very, like, interesting how they're going about it and trying to set it up. But, one of the issues that I ran into, like, I mean, the setting was very interesting. Like I said, like, the whole idea of, like, them trying to, like, tell this story about an empire that is, like, totally evil. Like, it's run by an evil emperor and all this stuff. But the thing that made it really, like, it was really fascinating how they were trying to handle it. But here's where I ran into the problem, because to be honest, I'm about 2/3 of the way through this book, and the problem that I've run into with it is that it's very boring. Like, the very beginning of the book was fascinating. It was very fascinating. They were developing this very complex setting where, like I said, like it's like as if like you were watching Star Wars from the viewpoint of the Empire rather than from the viewpoint of the rather than the viewpoint of the rebellion. And that was very interesting to do. Like, I really liked what they were doing. And they spent a lot of time establishing that, which was very interesting. However, the actual, like, development of the plot and the story and, like, the direction that they're taking the characters and, like, what they're trying to do, it's very boring and monotonous. And, like, for example, like, one of the things that I started noticing, like, it takes a long time for any form of real action to occur in the story. And on top of that, like, the action, like, the fight scenes that have occurred that I've read in the book, they're over very quickly, and they don't have very much detail to them. Like, they kind of just, like a lot of it was, like, there were a couple of scenes where, like, Tetsuo and, like, some of the fight scenes with Tetsuo aren't very interesting. They're very, like, boring. They kind of kept trying to do this thing where they were, like, explaining, like, the power of his magic and, like, what he's able to do with his magic. And, like, the way that they handled it was just not very interesting. It was very, I don't know. It was just, like, over in an instant. And they didn't really have, like, any time to really give you to, like, think about what was happening and what was going on. And, like, it would be over so quickly that like there was not very much imagination to it. Like I don't know. I just wasn't into it, and I wish they would have done a lot more, especially with like the fight scenes with Tetsuo, because like so when I was reading through the uh, the first cycle of Legends, like the first Legend cycle books, which once again, like I will state it over and over again, they're fantastic books. The fight scenes were spectacular, like absolutely spectacular. Like tons of things were happening. Like there were like they had magic and stuff like that, but they would go into great detail of like what was happening with the magic, what it was affecting, like how it was affecting each individual character, like how it would change based on certain factors, and it was really good. Like it was just very well written and well thought out, and it was very fascinating, and it was very exciting. And another thing about the first three Legends books, um, very, very gory. Those books are very gory. Um, like, I'm reading through, like, the Assassin's Blade, and, like, there's some scenes that are kind of brutal. Like, very, like brutal, but not detailed like how the original three were. Like they're not gory. Um, and I mean, like when I was first reading the first three books, I was like, man, this is some really gory stuff. Like I'm wondering if they're overdoing it on the gore. But now that I'm like reading through um, the Assassin's Blade book, I'm realizing that the gore in the first three books was necessary because it gives you detail of like what's going on. It's really carefully, like the fact that there's so much gore in it is really giving you this deep mental picture of everything that is happening, to the point of where like it's like not only are they being detailed with all of like the landscapes and the characters and all this stuff, they're being detailed with the war scenes and the battles down to like the pools of blood and the guts strewn about on the rocks, and like all like the heads exploding and things like that. Like they're trying to give you this deep mental picture because they want to give you a fantasy world that you can believe in your own mind. And like even though it might seem like some of the scenes are way gory and over the top, it's necessary to keep that belief of reality in their fantasy story. You know what I mean? Because like if you can like if you're reading an excerpt that is so gory it like sickens you, that's because they're doing such a good job at describing it that you can perfectly imagine it in your brain, and you're having a guttural reaction to like imagining how realistic that is. So they're actually like doing a great job by like adding that extreme level of gore. And like that's the thing, is that like the book that I'm reading right now, which I said is turning out to be kind of boring, it doesn't have that level of detail, and thus it's kind of underwhelming. Like it's not as interesting. Like while I've been like, because I what I do is when I'm at work, I'm like I go on my breaks, and I go on my breaks and I basically read my fantasy books. And so I've been reading the Assassin's Blade, and what's been happening lately is I'll be outside reading my book and I start nodding off. Like I start nodding off to sleep, which would never happen when I was reading the other three books. But it's happening like all the time, like not all the time, but relatively frequently when I'm reading this current book. And it's just making me realize more and more that this one's not as good. And I will say this too, is that it's probably also the writer, because the person who wrote the first three novels that I love so much is not the same person who wrote Assassin's Blade. They are actually different writers doing different things, like different books. So that's probably what it might be, is what my guess would be. Is that they're literally just different writers, different levels of writing and stuff like that, and different values as writers. And thus, like I said, like they're just like different books written by different people, and thus the first three are just much better. They're just much better written. They really are. So yeah, I'm getting kind of tired of it. I was thinking about like finishing Assassin's Blade, and then depending on like how it ends, I either will try to go on to the next book, or I might read something different. I don't know, because like I said, it's kind of boring. Ah, cold coffee, so good. Oh, all right. Well, let's see. We're about an hour and 15 minutes, so I think in about 15 minutes, I'm going to. Hey, Pink Peacock! Wow, showed up right when I was trying to interact with the chat, even though it's been quiet for a while. Good to see you, Peacock. I am working on Sulphur Springs, which is a commission for Man Cave. This is the very first commission I have done on stream, so I am having a great old time. I'm kind of just focusing on the base colors right now, because I really want to, let me see if I can kind of get it to focus. Let's see. There we go. That's a little bit better. So I'm kind of just focusing on the base colors, which is why it looks so boring right now. But I am planning to fill it out with a lot more detail. It's kind of interesting, because I'm definitely going about this particular piece a lot different. I think it's because it's a commission piece, so I'm trying to like really do things differently and make it look a lot nicer and be a lot more careful with all the things I do, which is generally what I do with commission pieces. I try to put a different level of detail and attention into it. Excuse me. So I'm definitely kind of going about this, because normally, like, what I would normally do is kind of focus on the top part first and then work on the bottom part last. But what I really wanted to do was to get my base colors down first, because if I can get these base colors down to start with, I can focus on all the details in the next stream, like, a lot better, which will allow me to get the varying colors much more focused. It'll allow me to kind of just put in the extra level of attention and detail that I really want. So I'm just kind of trying to get my base colors all finished here. And maybe what I'm thinking I'll do is I'm focusing on the base colors, and then I'll probably add in a few details here and there just to get started on that. And then my guess is that probably after adding just a few details, it'll be about time to end the stream. And then we can come back, and I'm kind of hoping, I'm expecting to come back tomorrow and work a lot harder on this tomorrow. So definitely, I will let you guys know tomorrow if anything changes, but I'm pretty much expecting to be able to be here tomorrow, focusing on doing this some more. So that'll hopefully, like I said, like I'll definitely let you guys know in the Discord, let you guys know what's going on, and yeah. But yeah, I really like magic lore though a lot. So much so, like, because one of the things that I was originally talking about that got me into this huge spiel about talking about the magic books was that I love magic lore so much that I was trying to write my own magic lore for a period of time. And like I said, like that's why I started reading a lot of the magic books, was because I wanted to kind of like learn that so that I could write my own magic lore. And yeah, I still want to do that. Like, I mean, I don't know how I'll do it, but taking a break from perp streams, I antagonize MTG players because they act high and mighty, so it gets to the point I just want to troll. Oh, well, that's okay, Peacock. I don't... Okay. Don't worry about it, Peacock. If it makes you feel better, I have had times where I've had to, like, not necessarily... Like, I've had a couple of times where I have actually walked away from watching Mike Hatcher's streams, simply because... And it wouldn't be on him, like, it's not his fault or anything. I've had a couple of times, like, and this was way in the past, where I would say something really dumb, or I would act in a certain way for a little while that was, like, not a really good way to act. So I would, like, basically not watch Mike Hatcher's streams for, like, a couple of days, just to kind of, like, reset and kind of relax and get my mind out of that, you know, not so great mentality. So don't feel bad, because I've had to do the same thing a couple of times. Like, I remember one time, like, this was a long time ago. This was back when I was first starting to watch Mike Hatcher. Like, this was, like, probably within the first couple of months or so that I started watching him. I actually remember getting into an argument with Mike Hatcher. And it was a pretty intense argument, to the point of where he was, like, yelling at me on his stream. And I was really upset about it. But the thing is that, like, I knew, like, I kind of had a moment where I got to kind of, like, reflect on it and realize that I was not acting in a really good way. I was kind of, like, creating problems for him, and he was speaking up about it and, like, defending himself, which was fine. And so basically what I did was I stopped talking to him, and I walked away for like 2 or 3 days, and then I came back and I apologized to him, because I, like, after about a couple of, like, 2 or 3 days of, like, not talking with him, I had time to, like, relax and reflect on it and realize that I was acting like a jerk. And then I apologized to him, and he basically responded back to me. He was like, hey, listen, like, it's totally okay. I'm glad you were able to realize that everything was, like, totally, you know, everything. You basically explained, like, everything's fine. Like, he was like, I'm glad you reflected on it and realized that you were not quite in the right. And I was like, that's all right. Like, I'm okay with, like, admitting when I'm wrong, you know? So that's why it's like I'm okay with, like, coming in and apologizing, and then he can come back and be like, hey, like, it's okay, and I'm glad you apologized, and blah, blah, blah. So it worked out. Lettuce talks shit and cuts derogatory jokes about people in the stream. I like to... yeah, but, like, Peacock, like, linking, like, I saw when you, like, I saw when you linked that Rickroll video, and I actually knew right away, like, as soon as I saw you link that video, I knew you were going to get in trouble. Like, you can't, so, like, me and, like, some of the other moderators, like, we link stuff, but generally when we link things, it's, like, 9 times out of 10, if we're linking something, it's related to Perp's content. So, like, I'll link his other channel, or I'll link his Twitch account, or I'll link his D-Live account, or I'll link a particular video he did. Like, I've done that a few times. The only time I've ever linked something that was not directly related to his content was there was one time when we were having a conversation about Mechanical Turk on Amazon, and he was like talking about how he liked doing surveys and stuff like that, and he was expressing that he was legitimately interested in something like that, but he didn't like know how to go about it, and he wasn't sure what it was. So I only sent him a link to the Mechanical Turk website just for his personal reference, and I knew also that putting that in the chat so that he could reference it for himself is also not um like it's also not dangerous, but it's not like it's not something that would upset any of the other people in the stream, you know? So like other people could use it for a reference as well, and they could like know that it's a link to a website based on the conversation that we were currently having. So it was something that was genuinely relevant to what was happening. And it was something that Perp himself was directly interested in. So, like, other than something like that, generally you only want to link to actual content that he himself has done or worked on. So, like, adding in that Rickroll link was not really okay because here's one of the best ways to kind of explain it was like adding in that Rickroll link is also kind of like besides the fact that it kind of trolls the audience like watching it, which is not that good of a thing to do, it's also unintentionally promoting content that Perp does not want to promote. So like it's kind of like in a way it's almost like coming in and like it's almost like coming into the stream and saying like, hey, go check out this video that this person did not create, but I think it's relevant because I think it's funny. So like it's like, even though the purpose of what you did was not to support another creator, it's unintentionally supporting another creator because the creator of that video was not Perp himself. So I, like, I kind of side with Mike Hatcher about why it's not okay to put that link in. So it's okay though. Like, I don't, like, legitimately don't beat yourself up about it because I have done plenty of stupid shit in Mike Hatcher's streams that I should have never done. Never. Like, I've abused my wrench multiple times, and I have admitted every time that I've abused my wrench, I've admitted that it was not okay. But the thing is that, like, when you have that happen to you, you learn from it, and then you don't do it again. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. The only thing that's wrong about making mistakes is if you don't learn from your mistake. Like, always use every mistake as a form of learning. Learning from your mistakes is the best and healthiest thing you can possibly do. So don't beat yourself up about it. Don't, like, constantly treat yourself like you're constantly in the wrong and you should feel bad. Just grow and learn from it, Let me catch up because I could see that you guys were chatting a lot, and I was kind of really focused on talking to Peacock there about that. Yeah. Tried to share a video, so I'll go. Okay, I apologize. I'm just saying I'm getting too into it. Admittedly, haven't been in a good place, so I need to stay away for a bit. That's okay, man. I've done the same thing. Like, don't feel bad about it. And like, he'll understand. Like, Perp understands if you have to like step away for a while to cool your head, because I've done it too. Like, there are times where like I won't show up to streams simply because my head is not in the right place for the stream, and I know that I can make, when my head is not in the right place to be in those streams, I know that I could possibly make a decision that I don't want to make and like get in trouble, so I'll just stay out. I'll go and watch something different, or go do something different. It's okay, man. It's totally okay. Um, let's see. Man Cave says I had to quit his streams too. He's a negative Nancy and a well, Man Cave. That's okay, man. If you feel that way, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong or anything like that. I personally, like, it's okay. I'm totally okay with it that that's your opinion, and you have to handle it in your own way, and that's totally fine. If you don't like him, totally okay. Not a problem. I personally love my catcher. I'm a major fan of him. And I have a lot of opinions about how he does things and the way he handles things, and I think that he says and does and handles things the way that he wants to in the best way possible for himself, and that's not to be dictated by anybody else except for himself. And I like that about him. I really do. It's kind of like how I want to be with my channel. Like, you're never going to see me, like, I'm not my catcher. Like, I'm not. And that means that I don't have the same personality as my catcher. I don't have the same attitude. I don't have the same way of handling my audience as my catcher. But I do take a lot of inspiration and influence from how he has done things and how he has handled things, because he has created an environment for himself that works fantastic for himself. And that's what I want to do for my channel. I don't want to copy him, but what I do want to copy, like, I don't want to copy exactly I don't want to copy his personality or his channel or what he generally does, but what I do want to copy is his overall form of handling things, which is he does what he wants, he handles what he wants to do to fit his personality and his style. So I have a completely different personality and I have a completely different style, but I want my channel to embody that about me. And the thing is that, and that's the idea of, like, being real. Like, that's the thing about my catcher, is that he is true to himself and he is real to himself. And his channel is a reflection of that. And that's what I want my channel to be. I want my channel to be true to my personality and true to me. And that doesn't mean that it's a copy of him at all. It just means that I like how he builds his channel around himself, and I want to build my channel around myself in the same operation, But that's okay. Like, if you don't like him, it's fine. Like, I'm not gonna fight with you about it. It's okay. Like, everybody's entitled to their own opinions. It's fine. Let's see. I was dumb and I shouldn't have done it. I assume that that's supposed to say shouldn't. That's okay. I know what you're talking about, Peacock. I need to speak my mind, and that's okay, Peacock. It's okay. It's totally, dude. It's chill. It's chill. It's all good. It's all good in the hood. I've been there before. / most I should know better. Yeah, that's okay, man. Well, I mean, I like most of the moderators. I mean, I feel really close to Lettuce. I feel really close to Polar Bear. I feel pretty close to you, Peacock. I feel pretty close to Richard, and Rebecca, and Ashed, and, like, there's a whole bunch of the moderators in Perp's channel that I'm very close. I feel like I'm very close with you guys, and I really enjoy you guys a lot. There are a couple moderators that I'm a little iffy with, but, I don't have, like, any beef against them or anything like that. It's just, I don't always agree with them all the time. Like, a combination of how they mod and a combination of their overall commentary I don't always agree with, which is fine. And that's okay, because, like, when you have all the moderators, like, and I think Perp understands this too, like, my catcher understands this, is that it's good that all of the moderators don't necessarily agree with each other 100%, because the moderators that don't necessarily think the same way and don't necessarily agree with each other are able to step in when other moderators should have but didn't. So, like, for example, like, and I've actually, one time I talked to Clayton about this one time. By the way, I did notice that Clayton got his wrench removed, and honestly, based on all the stuff that happened, I can completely understand why it happened that way. So, it is what it is. But I will say this, that I remember, like, commending Clayton on this, is that, like, I don't always agree with how Clayton talks or does things or mods things. But the thing is that I like about Clayton is that where he differs from me, like the fact that I don't necessarily agree with everything he does, and I don't necessarily agree with all of his abilities of moderating, there are times where I have let things slide that I shouldn't have let slide, but because Clayton disagrees with me, he's on top of it. So, like, it's like that overall difference between me and Clayton allows me to clean up what Clayton does that he didn't catch, and it allows Clayton to clean up what I did that I didn't catch. So, like, that's why it is important for, like, the moderators to not necessarily be 100% with each other all the time, because those different mentalities and different like way of understanding how people are acting in streams and overall speaking to one another is important, because it allows the moderators to catch mistakes that other moderators missed. So, like, there are a couple moderators that I'm like with that, like with that in perp streams. Like, I don't necessarily agree with everything they have to say, and sometimes I find some of the things they do as moderators are a little bit questionable. But I have had like multiple handfuls of times where I should have, like, either deleted a message or timed somebody out, but I didn't. But, like, a moderator who doesn't think the same way as I do was able to catch it before I was, and I commend them for it. So, I love most of the moderators. But there are a few that I don't necessarily get along with, but I'm okay with that because of those exact reasons. Like, because I know that, like I said, like, because we don't think the same way, they're able to pay attention to things that I would otherwise miss, and I respect that. I legitimately do. Been there before. Yeah. MTG. That's how it can be. I still love perp. I personally got so angry and the conduct of others that I thought I was exempt from the rules, which is wrong. That's okay, Peacock. It happens. Like, I actually one time timed somebody out because I didn't like a sentence they said. Like, there was this one guy. I don't think he comes around anymore because he was kind of a tool. And, like, I knew he was a tool before he, like, stopped hanging out with us. And before, like, it basically was, I knew he was a tool before he started acting like a tool. But back in the days where I recognized he was a tool, but he wasn't acting like it, he posted a message that was, like, totally okay for him to post, and there was nothing wrong with it, but it bothered me because it made me feel like he was becoming a tool. So I timed him out for it. And Perp called me out on it. And he was like, hey, don't do that. Like, that's not okay. Like, he was totally fine. And I was like, you're right. Like, I definitely, basically it was like, he didn't do anything wrong, and I shouldn't have timed him out. I timed him out because his message striked me as something a tool would say. But he didn't say anything insulting. He didn't insult the moderators. He didn't insult Perp. He didn't, cause any trouble. He wasn't instigating anything. He wasn't spamming anything. Like, so my timeout against that guy was completely irresponsible of me to do. So it happens. Like, you know, like, because I thought I was doing the right thing because it made me feel wrong. But it wasn't actually doing anything wrong to anybody else. And that was like a situation where the power went to my head, and I basically said, I can do this because I'm a moderator and it makes me feel bad. So that's okay. And, like, that's not okay. And that's the whole thing, is that, like, Mike Hatcher will let you know. Like, he'll let you know when you're stepping out of your bounds. I don't know what you did wrong either, Man Cave. That's okay, though. Don't feel bad, man. It's fine. If if you and him don't get along, then don't worry about it. Like, yeah, I feel like I've seen you in some of his streams though. Like, it's yeah. You say okay. My bad. I'm sorry. Hey Mesmer, what's up, Mezzy? Good to see you, dude. I'm sorry. I'm kind of like I said, I kind of address each comment as like a you guys give me a sentence and I write a book about it. Good to see you, Mez. I'm really not comfortable being a mod at times. I get pissed at things that aren't that bad, like correcting speech and bringing up turkey bacon. Yeah, it's okay, Pink Peacock. Well, that's okay, because, sometimes, too, you guys have seen me, be on, filter duty, which is, I'll just, watch the stream and be quiet. Like, a lot of the time it's because, I just don't want to talk with anybody, And, or I'm in a mood where, if I talk with somebody, I might say something wrong or bad that I shouldn't be talking. So I'll just be on filter duty. And, what I'll do, too, is I'll have days where I'll be on filter duty, and, I will, let me flip this around so people can see it better. That's kind of, making me feel weird for a second there. I'll be on, filter duty, and, I won't time people out or anything. Unless somebody is, being, a legit troll, I won't really time anybody out. I'll just be on filter duty, and I won't, call anybody out. Even if somebody says something really stupid, I'll just leave it be. So sometimes just, lurking. Just lurking is really nice, too. Because, then you can basically, enjoy the stream, but you don't necessarily have to be a part of it. But you can still, enjoy it for what it is. Treat it like a classic television show. When you're watching classic TV, you're not constantly interacting with, the actors, Just treat it like that sometimes. It'll make you feel better. Yeah, I'm... on my list. I'm glad you posted on my Discord. Oh yeah, it's okay, Mesmer. I started posting on your Discord because you gave me permission to do so. If that starts bothering you, me posting stuff on your Discord, you can let me know whenever, and I promise I will stop doing it. So if you get annoyed by it, I will stop. I'm only doing it simply because you asked me to start doing it, so I was like, alright. And yeah, I'm sorry, Man Cave and Mez. I wasn't trying to say that you guys don't like perp or anything like that. My thing is that I didn't want you guys, to feel like that if you do dislike perp, I don't want you guys to feel bad about it. This is my space. So, this is my channel, this is my space. You guys are here to hang out with me. So, if you guys don't like Mike Hatcher, I'm not going to hold that against you. It's not like we're on his channel right now. This is my channel. So, I'm not going to say that it's, that... I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to agree with you if you do hate him, but I'm not going to hold it against you. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. It's fine. This is a safe space. Oh, sorry, I hit the camera. This is a safe space. It's fine. Let me catch up here. I'm curious, how has my conduct been? I think in chats I go a little too... It's fine, Peacock. I've never noticed you over... The only time I ever saw you overstep your boundary was when you posted the Rickroll video. I was actually really... when you did that, it surprised the hell out of me because I knew you were going to get in trouble for it. And I was like, Peacock doesn't do things like that. What? That is so weird. But, that's the only time ever that I've ever seen you do something like that. And I knew, that it was not a good thing to do, and I knew that you were going to get in trouble for it, but um, like that's the only time I've ever seen you do something like that. Like I don't think you've ever been like a problem ever in my catcher streams from what I've noticed. So I wouldn't worry about it, dude. Like I really would not worry about like your conduct in the streams because you've always been like a really chill dude. You've supported Perp longer than I have, and like you and him get along great. Like I really would not worry about it. Like it's fine. Just just don't post links. I mean, it's like I said. Like if you're posting a link, here's what I would do. Because I kind of like did that whole explanation of like when I posted the link to Mechanical Turk and like all the reasons why I did it. Like I'll say this, put it in this way. The only time you should ever post a link, like just make this as a rule for yourself. Anytime you post a link, make sure it only has to do with Mike Hatcher. Like you can post a link to his D Live, you can post a link to his Twitch account, you can post a link to his Hatcher channel, you can post a link to Carly's channel. That's okay too. And you can post links to his individual videos. Like if somebody's having a conversation, like for example, like I remember one time we had a conversation about Pokemon, and there was this guy who was in the chat who was really interested in talking about Pokemon. So I told him, I was like, oh, you like Pokemon? You should check out Mike Hatcher's video about Pokemon. You'll love it. And like, so I posted the link in there for the video. And that's okay too. Like, post his videos, post his websites, like that's okay. But don't post anything else and you'll be fine. This isn't really about disliking Perv. I personally am having issues with the community and how toxic it has grown. Peacock, take yourself out of the community, man. That's what I did. Do you know who I play Magic with? My friends. That's it. That's it. And like whenever, like I actually unsubscribed to a lot of Magic channels recently. Like I don't watch Jeremy anymore at all. Like I know he's a good guy, I really do, but I don't support his content. It makes me mad. Like, and it's not him making me mad. Like it's not like him as a person is making me mad. The content that he does is designed to put people in a frenzy. And I don't want to be a part of that. So I stopped. So I removed my subscription to Jeremy. I stopped watching MTG Lion. I basically took myself out of the drama culture, and things have been better. The only time I deal with Magic is here on my channel, talking with you guys, talking with Perp, talking with my friends, like. And it's been great because I don't really have to worry about all the dumb people involved in the game that are saying all sorts of dumb things. So, it's just take yourself out of it, Peacock. It helps. Find a, like, Peacock, do what I do. Find, like, 2 or 3 friends that you love playing Magic with. Then only play with those people. That's it. That's all you need. Like, yeah, I mean, if you really want to go and do like Friday Night Magic and go to tournaments and stuff, that's okay, I guess. But like, you're going to be more likely to run into stupid people if you do that. So I don't even do like I don't participate in standard at all anymore. I don't. There's no magic shops where I live, so I don't even do that either. So like, I just play with like 2, maybe 3 friends total. We play Magic every once in a while. Like I would say I play Magic maybe once or twice a month. Just that's what I would suggest. Just take yourself out of it and you'll be a lot happier. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Mesmer. Perp kicking me out of your is Perp kicking Man Cave, are you talking about when you came into my stream and he timed you out those few times? To be honest, I think he was just playing with you. Like, Perp has he's kind of a tough love kind of guy, and I think he was just showing you a little of his tough love. Like, I wouldn't get too all upset about that. Mez, my issue with Perp is that a lot of his originals, like me, started to ignore for others for whatever reason he has. I was there when he was under 500. Some of his original people feel the same way. Well, I mean, the thing is that like I kind of feel like I started early. Like, I mean, I think I started when he had a couple thousand of subscribers. So, I mean, I'm probably not, I wasn't around him as early as you were and as early as Peacock was. But I feel like I was pretty early into his channel, relatively. But the thing is that, like, Perp generally loves his fan base. But the thing is that, like, you have to, like, think about what you're saying and what you're doing before you communicate with him. Like it's kind of hard to like I'm not like here's the thing is it's all psychology. It's all psychology. And the thing is that like it's not about it, and the thing is that it's not about kissing ass either. It's about like knowing how to speak to people on their level. So like for example, like I'm trying to think of a good example of it, like because it's definitely about like okay, so if you were to come into one of Perp's streams and then all you want to do is talk about Magic, like Magic cards, what you did in Magic today, like what you did at the card shop, like what games you played, what your score was, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, he's not interested in that stuff because it's like you're basically talking about what he loves, but you're focusing it around yourself, you know? And the thing is that like when you want to get on somebody's level, when you want to communicate with somebody and make them take an interest in you, and you want to show them that you can communicate with them and share something with them on a personal mental level, what you want to do is you want to adapt, like you want to show your interests, but you want to adapt it to something that they are genuinely interested in communicating with you. So, like, for example, one of the easiest ways to do that is obviously just simply talking about, like, something that happened in your, like, day related to Magic, but relate it in a sense that you can compare it to something that he has done in his content. So like that's basic, and like it doesn't necessarily need to be specifically that example. It's about taking something, it's about taking an interest that you have and communicating it in a way that somebody can digest for their own interest. Like it's kind of like I'm trying to figure out a way to properly explain it because like when I talk about this stuff, it's really natural to me simply because I grew up with it a lot, and like it's all about like it's not like you want to make everything you talk about specifically about them, but you want to just basically find like a level where you and that person can feel comfortable based on you sharing a subject and then like not you share that subject and then also relating it to something that they are genuinely like interested in or genuinely a part of. So like it's kind of like you have to kind of look at it like trying to, I don't know, like I would almost describe it as like trying to communicate with a girl you have a crush on. You know, like you want to talk about what they're interested in, but you want to relate it to your own personal interests so that they can find a medium happy level where they feel like they can build a connection with you. You know? So it's like I know I kind of went on into a lot of stuff, but it's that like I feel like that what happens is that like especially because the reason why I brought it up is because Mez, you were talking about how his earlier people like felt like they lost touch with her and thus he shunned you guys. But my personal belief is that it was that, like, you were shunned because, like, you weren't able to make that same connection anymore. And, like, you want to believe that it was related to his growth. But the thing is that he's probably always been the same person with the same level of interests. But the thing is that he's grown from that as well and has learned a lot more, and he just wants, like, people that know how to share that level of understanding with him, you know? Like, I think you guys kind of understand what I mean. I'm going to continue on with reading. Thank you, Mez. I just read your comment. You're good, Sir Pepper. No worries. You're right. This is your channel. You do what is best for you. We will support you. Thanks, Mez. I appreciate that. I can post crazy and wild stuff no matter where I'm at, but I never try to offend. Just want to have fun. That's okay. Community should always support each other. We are community. Peacock, you're always welcome in my community. No drama, no anger, all fun and togetherness. That's okay. By the way, I'm not going to ever leave Perp. I support anybody in his community, and you, Mezzy, Must See, Filthy, Cinder, etc. I stopped playing Magic completely. My issue is that Magic players are bitching about the content of streams. I get it, though. He is something Magic Channel. Cards looking great. Thank you, Man Cave. I promise I'll get more work done on it. I'll probably be doing another stream tomorrow, and we'll probably get more focused on the details. So, like, I know that the colors are a little rough right now, but I just wanted to kind of get all the colors down so that we have a baseline to go off of, and then we can start blending all of the other details in. And just to give you guys a heads up for people who weren't in here before, this is the goal that I'm trying to go for. For any of you guys who can see it, there's a little lady imp in the art. Here, let me kind of zoom it out a little bit. This is what we're going for. We're going to add a little lady imp in a beer can and maybe a couple other details depending on where it goes. So this is the goal of the altar that I'm trying to achieve right now. So right now we're just focusing on the base colors, and we want to get the details in to make it look like a proper extension, and then we'll add in like the extra altered parts to it a little bit later. So let me catch up a little bit more. Yeah, so like I said, Peacock, like, I would just pull yourself out of the majority of the Magic community, just like, because, like, here's the thing. Every community is going to have its amount of douchebags. So, like, you have to treat, like, here's what I do. You have to treat the Magic community like you would the entire world, okay? Like, I'm sure that every person on this planet has at least one similar interest as you do, okay? Like, at least one, right? It doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. But the thing is that, like, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get along with every single person, okay? Like, let's just face it, you can't. Like, you can't get along with every single person that has at least one similar interest in you, because that's the whole world. But you have to, like, understand that just because there is this group, this huge, like, population of people who love Magic, like the Magic community, you're not going to get along with all of them. Magic might be the only single interest you even share with any individual person within that community. You have to be selective over people like you would with any friend you meet or get along with. Like, for example, like, we get along, like, Mez, Peacock, Man Cave, like, we all get along because we're all friendly with one another and we share multiple similar interests. Like, we make content, we attend each other's streams, we talk about, like, other people's streams, we talk about Magic, we talk about painting, sometimes we talk about cooking. Like, we genuinely get along as friends. Like, we know each other on a level of being friendly. And, like, you have to treat the whole community like that. Like, you can't just assume that you're going to be able to get along with everybody just because you all share Magic. You have to be selective like you would with friends, you know? Like, if you hang out with a group of friends and one of those people is a major douchebag who does major douchebag things, you're probably going to cut that person out of your life. Like, that's how it is with the rest of the community. You have to be selective with who you want to spend your time with and things like that. And just because they like magic doesn't mean that they're this wonderful person. You know? Like, that's just not how it is. So just be selective. Like I said, like, I only play Magic with like 2 or 3 different people. The rest of the people that I talk with Magic are people here online. And, like, I don't even go to all the stuff. Like, I don't attend every Magic channel. I'm not in every single Magic community. Like, most Magic YouTubers, I can't stand. I really can't. Like, I mean, I pretty much just watch... The only Magic YouTubers I genuinely enjoy are Cinder Shadow and My Catcher. That's it. That's it. Like, those are the only 2 Magic YouTubers I partake in. Because I think... The reason why is because I like them as people. Like, I don't like them because they make Magic content. I like them as people. And, like, you can make the best Magic content on the planet, but if you're a piece of shit or a douchebag or somebody that I don't like, I'm not going to watch your Magic content. Like, that's just how it is. Like, straight up. Well, okay, I gotta take that back. Now that I think about it, I've been slowly getting into Mesmer's Magic content, so I guess I could say there's a 3rd channel on there. Your content's good, Mezzy. Keep it up, dude. I want to see more from you. So I gotta mention you as one of the Magic YouTubers I watch. Because I'm trying to get you to make more content, because I know you got it in you. So I have to say, you're another Magic content producer that I watch. Because I know that if I say that, you're going to make more content, so you better do it. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I'm glad you like it, Man Cave, and we'll work more on it. I already mentioned that, but I just want to remind you, we'll work more on it soon. I actually have to wrap this stream up pretty soon, because we're on 2 hours, which is half an hour longer than I was expecting. But it's because we were, like, the last half hour hasn't been painting. We were just kind of chatting about a whole bunch of different things. So when Perp has 30 plus chat viewers, he has to pick and choose, so I accepted that messages won't get seen. Oh yeah, Peacock, that's okay. Like, my messages get ignored all the time. Like, that's just natural. Like, and the thing is, like, that's another thing, and I mean, you obviously understand this, like, just don't repeat your messages. There's no reason. Like, one of the greatest things I ever learned about, like, and I tell people this all the time, especially in My Catcher streams, My Catcher reads everything. Like, there are times where that's not always true, but 9 times out of 10, My Catcher reads every single message, but he has to pick and choose what he wants to talk about. So, like, with that knowledge at hand, be comfortable in the fact that if you post a message on his chat, he read it. That should be good enough. Like, you shouldn't need to seek acknowledgement from him. Like, and that's a quality about being like, I would say that's a personal security kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know the idea of, like, somebody who's insecure? So, if you can find comfort in the thought process that, like, oh, I posted a message, he read it. Like, it's fine. I don't need to talk about it anymore. If he didn't acknowledge it, it means that he read it, but it's not of his personal concern at the moment. But he read it. I don't need to seek acknowledgement for that. Like, that's fine. Like, that says, like, having that thought process, like, of, like, I said what I wanted to say. I know for a fact he read it. I don't need any acknowledgement. That says so much about you. That says that you have a level of personal security of you as a person. It means that you do not need to seek acknowledgement, and you do not need to seek somebody to tell you that you're relevant, because you should be relevant in your own mind. And your relevancy comes from yourself. So be comfortable in the fact that he will read your message. He might not acknowledge it, but he gave you the time. He gave you his personal time of reading your message, and that's all you should need. And that should be okay with you. And that makes you a more powerful person. Like, these losers that come into his chat and spam the same message. Like, they spam they post a message. They wait, like, until the message is off the chat log. They post the same message again. Message goes off the chat log. They post it again. Those are people who are insecure. They have to see, they need acknowledgement because they don't have any personal security. Like, and the thing is that the more they do that, the more pathetic they seem, and the more likely that, one, Perp is either going to ignore them, or two, he's going to call them out and make them feel like shit. Because you know what? When he calls them out and makes them feel like shit, he's trying to drag out that insecurity from those people and shove it in their face to be like, listen, you're an insecure person who is using their insecurity to annoy me personally. Get out of my face and go be insecure somewhere else. That's why he is that way. Like, he has, like, good reasons for doing those kinds of things. Let's see. I hope he doesn't get the wrong idea. Yeah, Mez, we need more content. What are you doing, dude? You're slipping, bro. I don't, Pink Peacock, I really don't think you need to worry about it. I think you're kind of up in your own head about it, and you really shouldn't. Like, you're fine. It's totally okay. Like, here's the thing. If you do something wrong, my catcher will scream at you about it. And you know why? Because he cares about you. So, like, if he does, like, see, the thing is it's kind of like a while ago, there was a stream where it was a popular stream on it was a popular Mike Hatcher stream where lots of people were coming in, checking it out. There was a guy who, I can't remember who it is now. I feel bad because they're a regular. But somebody was in the chat and having an argument with Mike Hatcher. And the thing is that he first of all is a regular who comes in the chat, who comes into the streams very often. And he was having an argument, and he was wrong. He was starting this argument with Mike Hatcher, and he was completely in the wrong. And the thing is that Mike Hatcher screamed his lungs out at him. Screamed at him. And, like, the thing is that he screamed at him because he cares about that guy. Because that guy's a regular. He's been in a lot of the streams. Like, we know him relatively. And I feel bad because I can't remember who it specifically was. But he knows him fairly well. And the thing is that right after that occurred, and the thing is too is that, like, that guy, when he was arguing with Mike, he was trying to explain it politely and coherently, even though he was arguing with him. And Mike Hatcher screamed at him. So, and then what happened is shortly after that argument occurred, a random troll, like a random troll that nobody's ever seen before, because it was a popular stream, a random troll that nobody's ever seen before, nobody cares about, comes in, and he tries to do the same thing as that guy that Mike Hatcher screamed at. And you know what Mike Hatcher did? He banned him. Didn't say anything to him. He just banned him. And then, right after Mike Hatcher banned the guy, he then said, I want you guys to understand something what just occurred. He basically explained, I screamed at this guy because I care about him. Okay? I care about this guy because he's a regular in my streams, and I screamed at him because he's a friend of mine, and I want him to know that I'm pissed off about what he's saying at me. This other guy who's trying to replicate what the guy who's a regular says, I don't know you. I don't care who you are. You don't come in here, and I don't know you. So I'm just going to ban you, and I'm not going to say anything to you. Like, that's what he does, is, like, he cares about his regular people. And, like, if he's genuinely mad at you, he will scream at you. But know that if he screams at you or yells at you, it's because he cares. But, like, if he just, like, doesn't acknowledge you and just bans you, or, like, takes your wrench away or whatever, well, maybe not take your wrench away, because he still cares about people that he takes the wrench away from. But, I mean, if he just bans somebody and doesn't say anything about it, like, that's somebody he genuinely doesn't care about. And he doesn't need to care about them, you know? So, like, Peacock, I really don't think you need to worry, because like he hasn't really screamed at you or yelled at you. Like he let you know that what you did was wrong, and that's as far as he took it. And he didn't need to yell or scream at you because he knew that you understood that he was upset by what you did, but it wasn't to a point of where he was infuriated by it and he needed you to know because he cares about you, you know? So just, I would just relax and, be like, it's okay, man. Like I said, like my catcher's done the same to me. Like where like he'll let me know when I've overstepped my boundaries. Like all you have to do is just understand that he's being nice. He does care about you. You just have to relax, and you need to take a couple steps back. And like if you need to like stay away from his streams for a little while, that's okay, man. Like don't feel bad. And like I will tell you this too. If you step away from his streams for a little while because you need to clear your head, and you come back like 3 or 4 days later, like he'll be so happy to see you. He'll be really happy. He'll be like, "Hey, Peacock, I haven't seen you in like 3 or 4 days. Like, where have you been, man? I missed you. We've all missed you. Blah 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 blah." Like he'll love it, and then you can even tell him like that. You wanted to apologize for what you did, and like you needed to kind of do your own thing for a little bit, and he'll understand that, and he'll be totally cool with it, like straight up. Um. I'll be fine. I need to vent. That's okay, Peacock. You can come here and vent. It's fine. It's totally okay. Oh, that's okay, Peacock. You don't even worry about it. I really appreciate that you want to send me something. You wait until you have money, or if you can't, if you find out that you just can't do it, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You don't have to. You don't put yourself out of your way financially or whatever just to send me something, okay? So I really appreciate it, though. If you can do it eventually, I appreciate that. If you can't do it, I appreciate that as well, because it's the thought that counts. So thank you, Peacock. It's all good. I really have to wrap up this stream. It's been 2 hours. So let's kind of end it here. I haven't painted in a while. I just wanted to kind of talk with you guys because I care about you guys, and I know that you guys are kind of in a little bit of a rough spot right now, and you guys needed to kind of chat about it a little bit, and that's fine. That's okay. But I do have to end this stream because it's gone on for 2 hours, and that's really long. So I'm glad you like how it looks, Peacock. We'll make it look even better next stream. I'm probably going to do that tomorrow. So we'll have a great time tomorrow, okay? So I will hopefully see you guys all tomorrow. I'm just going to say the basic stuff that I always say. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Go ahead and ring that notification bell so that you guys can get updates on when I'm streaming or making videos or whatever. I have a PayPal account if you want to send me donations. That's in the description below. Or also, if you are interested in a commission like this right here, which is in fact a commission for Mr. Man Cave, feel free to contact me in the Discord. The Discord is also the same name, and it's public, so you can join in, and I will let you in. And if you're interested in a commission, we can talk about it on the Discord, and then we can arrange payment methods. I also have a P.O. box, which is also in the description. So if you want to send me mail or whatever, that's in the description below. So I had a great time, guys. I really appreciate you all being out here today and hanging out with me. It's been a lot of fun. So as I always like to say, follow your dreams, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.